Okay, so welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really special, an astronaut's very first spacewalk.
Yeah, we've got this amazing first-hand account. We're basically going outside the International Space Station with him, step by step.
Exactly. We'll get into the preparations, the challenges, that incredible view. The source is his personal story, so it's a really unique perspective.
It really is, and it throws you right in. We start inside the airlock, the U.S. side. It's tiny, like the size of a small car.
Right, and already there are issues before they even face space.
Yeah, the author's suit feels too tight, uncomfortable, but his partner, K-Gel, he's got the only XL suit they have up there.
So cramped, awkward. It just shows how the reality isn't always like the shiny pictures, huh?
Definitely not like the training simulations. And you get these great little human details right away.
Like when he asks K-Gel how he's doing.
Yeah, and K-Gel about to, go into a vacuum, just gives a thumbs up. Great.
It's that contrast, isn't it? The completely extreme situation, but then just normal human interaction.
It sets the scene perfectly. And it also makes you think about the training they do. I mean, it's intense, right? Huge swimming pools, mock-ups.
But it can only prepare you so much, I guess.
Exactly. Because space always seems to throw something new at you.
You can say that again. Like just moments later, the airlock starts depressurizing, and then bang.
Yeah, these loud bangs. He says they never heard anything like that in training.
And ground control is just like, oh yeah, that's normal, just the air getting sucked out.
But nobody mentioned it beforehand. It really hits home, that gap between simulation and, well, reality.
For sure. And then they have to do the suit checks, getting ready for the vacuum.
Right, critical leak checks. And this is where you really appreciate the difficulty. He talks about the gloves.
Oh yeah, the comparison, like trying to change a tire wearing baseball mitts.
Exactly. It just paints such a clear picture of how clumsy and difficult it is to do anything requiring dexterity.
And they have mirrors on their wrists to read the labels.
Because the labels are backwards from their viewpoint on the controls, it's just layer upon layer of complexity.
They're doing surgery, looking in a mirror with giant gloves on. And the stakes are just astronomical.
And speaking of stakes, that whole incident with the water switch, that sounds like a real nail-biter.
Yeah, tell us about that. It's for the cooling system, right?
Right. You turn it on too early, before full vacuum, and the water lines could freeze instantly. Big problem.
Okay.
So the author is thinking, should I remind Kyle? Be careful. And just he's thinking it.
Cariel bumps it? Accidentally?
Yep. Hits the switch instantly, potential mission abort. Damage to a multi-million-dollar suit.
Oh my God. You can just feel the tension reading it? Yeah. The author's trying to keep Cariel focused while mission control is figuring out if they have to call the whole thing off.
It highlights that human error factor. Even with all the training and procedures, pressure does funny things.
So what happens? Do they abort?
Well, while ground is still evaluating the switch situation, they actually tell them, okay, proceed with opening the hatch.
Wow. Okay, so moving forward despite the uncertainty.
And this is a great little moment. The author realizes he has absolutely no idea if it's daytime or nighttime outside the station.
Huh. You just wouldn't think about that, would you? Right. Totally removed from Earth's rhythms.
Completely. And then the hatch opens.
And light.
Intense, blindingly bright, just unfiltered sunlight reflecting off the Earth.
Yeah.
He goes from struggling with the hatch mechanism 1 second to just pure awe the next.
That back and forth seems key. The technical hassle versus the sheer wonder of it all.
Absolutely. And then he describes the feeling of being in the suit. It's like its own little world.
A tiny spacecraft, he calls it.
Yeah. Upper body floating, that faint chemical smell inside the helmet. Hearing your own breathing, muffled voices over the comms. It's very immersive.
While hurtling around the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour.
Mind-boggling speed just reinforces how alien this environment truly is.
So they're at the hatch. What's next? Do they just jump out?
Not quite. There's actually a 10-minute wait. They have to watch K-Gel's suit, look for any tiny ice crystals forming snow, he calls it. That would mean a leak.
Constant vigilance. Always checking for problems.
Always. Then, finally, he pushes out of the airlock.
And it's disorienting.
Very. He describes feeling like he's climbing up, and Earth is suddenly this massive thing looming overhead. It messes with your brain's sense of up and down.
Because there is no up or down, really.
Yeah.
Gravity's not giving you those cues.
Exactly. So he has to consciously, compartmentalize, focus purely on the next step. Get that safety tether hooked up,
He compares it to landing a plane, right? That level of focus.
Yeah, it really conveys that need for intense concentration on the immediate task. You can't afford to be distracted.
And the tether itself
Yeah.
seems like a pretty low-tech solution for such a high-tech environment, but absolutely critical.
Life or death critical. He's meticulous about checking it. And he mentions that chilling story about the Russian cosmonaut who got detached once. It's your only lifeline.
And they don't really rely on the suit jets, the built-in thrusters.
Not routinely, no. Apparently, VR training showed they could be risky, easy to lose control, so that tether is everything. Simple, but essential.
Okay, so Cagel's tether is secure. They swap some gear. What's next?
Then come the buddy checks. They inspect each other's suits, especially Cagel's backpack, the PLSS, looking for any ice from that water switch incident.
And it's clear.
Yep, positive report. Big relief, although apparently some engineers back on Earth were still a bit hesitant about them continuing. Shows the layers of safety checks involved.
It's not just the astronauts making the calls.
Not at all. Then more checks, helmet lights, cameras, the jetpack handles. They find a few minor things, fix them quickly. It's just constant checking.
It's one last check on the tethers, I assume.
You bet. Can't check those enough.
It makes you think about why they do this at all.
Yeah.
I mean, spacewalks, EVAs, they're inherently risky, aren't they?
Hugely risky. The author touches on the history a bit, going back to Alexei Leonov in '65, the very first spacewalker.
Right, and he had trouble getting back in his capsule, didn't he? The suit inflated.
Exactly. Almost didn't make it. It seems almost comical now, but it shows how much they were learning on the fly.
And even with all the advances, things can still go wrong. Like Luca Parmitano's helmet, filling with water. Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. The risks are always there, but spacewalks are essential for building things in space, maintenance, repairs. You just can't do everything with robots.
And this author, he was an experienced astronaut, shuttle commander even, but this was his first actual spacewalk.
That's right. Flew the shuttle, commanded missions, but never did an EVA until this ISS trip. So he had this deep spaceflight knowledge, but was, the rookie spacewalker.
Which gives him maybe a unique viewpoint. And the prep work. It sounds immense.
Oh, incredible. Hours and hours of planning, getting the suits ready, checking every component, organizing every single tool for every hour they plan to be outside.
It's not just throwing on the suit and heading out the door.
Not even close. He talks about starting the day super early, putting on the cooling garment, the diaper.
The glamour of spaceflight.
Yeah. Then hours of breathing pure oxygen to purge nitrogen from their blood, all before they even start getting suited up.
And they need help getting into the suits, right?
Definitely. The IV crew member, Kimia in this case, plays a crucial role, helping them in, checking seals, managing the airlock. It's a total team effort. One mistake inside could be disastrous outside.
And the suit itself is basically a personalized spacecraft.
Pretty much. Life support, temperature control, radiation shielding. It's incredibly complex. Even the helmet is custom fitted with special lenses.
Wow. And conserving energy is key too, like floating into the airlock.
Every little bit helps. It's physically demanding work even before you start the main tasks.
So once they're finally outside and secured, how do they move around?
They call it translating. It's basically moving hand over hand along the station's handrails and structures.
So the gloves are really important then.
Critical for grip and also protection. And as he starts moving, he notices something.
What's that?
Just how much damage the outside of the station has taken over the years. Little impacts from micrometeoroids, space debris. It looks kind of beat up close.
A reminder of the harsh environment they're floating in.
For sure, a constant bombardment. He calls going outside an unnatural act.
And he says he didn't feel fear because of the training.
Yeah, compartmentalization, he calls it, focusing on the job. But the physical challenges are immense, like the temperature swings.
Right, drastic changes, isn't it? From burning hot in the sun to freezing cold in shadow.
Plus 270 to minus 270 Fahrenheit, like almost instantly sometimes. And the suits don't fully protect you from that. Only the gloves have heaters.
Wow, even his healed ingrown toenail was a factor he'd considered.
Yeah, small details become magnified in that environment. But then there's the view.
Ah, yes. He talks about how different it is from just looking out a window.
Totally different. His analogy is perfect. Seeing a mountain from your car versus actually climbing the mountain, you're in it.
More immersive, the peripheral vision.
Exactly. You see the curve of the Earth, the thin blue line of the atmosphere, the colors, the clouds, continents. He says words just fail, basically. Overwhelmingly beautiful.
Must be incredible. So what were their actual jobs out there?
Right, the tasks. His first job was to remove some insulation from a power unit called a main bus switching unit, or MBSU, getting it ready for the robotic arm to grab later.
Okay, sounds practical.
And Kitchell's task was putting a thermal blanket on the AMS, the alpha magnetic spectrometer.
It sounds more sciencey.
It is. It's a huge experiment looking for dark matter, dark energy.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. And there's a cool personal connection.
Oh, yeah?
The author's brother commanded the shuttle mission, Endeavour's last flight, that actually delivered the AMS to the station.
No way. So he's working near something his brother brought up there?
Pretty neat connection. And it highlights why they're out there, the science is trying to understand, like 95% of the universe that we currently can't see or explain.
Wow. That really puts it in perspective. But even simple tasks, like taking off insulation, it's hard work.
Extremely hard. He compares stowing the insulation neatly to trying to pack a suitcase that's nailed to the ceiling. Everything wants to float away, you're fighting the stiff suit.
And you need that pilot-like focus the whole time.
For hours. He mentions the 3 critical T's they have to constantly manage.
Which are?
Tethers always know where they are, always secure, task focus on what you're doing right now, and timeline keep track of the overall schedule. Survival and success depend on those.
Tethers, task, timeline. Got it. So he gets the insulation off. Okay.
Yeah, successfully done. Ground control congratulates them, and there's this brief moment, where he thinks, okay, maybe the spacewalk will actually go smoothly now.
Famous last words.
Pretty much. It's a long day, and their only way to get any kind of sustenance is sipping water through a tube inside the helmet.
Right. So what's the next challenge?
Working on the end effector of the station's robotic arm, that's the hand that grabs onto visiting spacecraft, it needed greasing.
More maintenance. But the view changed.
Yeah, for this task, he was positioned facing Earth, looking down, not looking back at the station structure. He described it as feeling like king of the world.
Nice. But the work itself? Still tough.
Oh, yeah. Again, the difference between training with replica tools on Earth and doing it for real in space. Tools float, the bulky gloves make handling a grease gun really awkward.
And grease in space. Sounds messy.
Potentially hazardous. If it gets on your helmet visor, you can't just wipe it off. And this task took a long, long time. His hands got incredibly tired and sore.
Plus, he's coordinating with Kimia inside, who's moving the arm.
Exactly. Precise movements needed, and he's trying to apply grease into parts of the mechanism he can't even directly see. Super complex.
And all this takes time. Are they falling behind schedule?
Yeah, the greasing took much longer than planned, and Kajal was also having trouble routing some cables for another task. They realized they'd have to skip some of the planned activities.
The common occurrence in spaceflight, I imagine. Adapting to the situation.
Definitely. So after more than 6.5 hours outside, it's time to head back.
Even if they have supplies left.
Yeah, they always need a safety margin, a buffer in case something goes wrong during re-entry into the airlock. So they start the long process of getting back inside.
Which is also difficult.
Especially when you're exhausted. Kajal goes in first, maneuvering backwards. Then the author follows. And just closing the hatch becomes a major struggle because they're so tired.
And the hatch itself had issues.
Yeah, the outer thermal cover was a bit warped from the sun, making it harder to seal properly. Plus, reconnecting to the station's life support umbilicals inside the airlock is tricky when you're worn out and still in the bulky suit.
But he manages to get it closed and locked.
He does, but then comes the repressurization and trying to equalize the pressure in his ears. It was so difficult he actually burst some blood vessels in his eyes.
Ouch. Just shows the physical strain. How long were they in the suits total?
About 11 hours by that point. An incredibly long time. And then, just as the pressure is equalizing, the comms with the ground cut out temporarily, which allows for this perfectly candid moment.
What does he say?
He just yells out, "That was freaking insane."
I bet it was.
And Kajal immediately agrees, "I am so tired." You just feel the raw exhaustion and the intensity of what they've just been through.
And they know they have to do it again in 9 days.
Exactly. Adds another layer, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But then the inner hatch opens, and Kimia is there, smiling. Big relief. First thing they do is check their gloves for any damage.
Always checking. And getting out of the suits.
Sounds like another ordeal. He uses that birthing horse analogy again. The suits are stiff, it's 0G, Kimia has to help pull them out. And the moment he's out, the fatigue just hits him like a ton of bricks.
I can only imagine. What's the recovery like?
Well, first things first, get out of the cooling undergarment, deal with waste disposal, then a quick wipe-down shower, and finally real food after about 14 hours.
Must taste amazing.
Probably. And then he gets a call with his partner, Amiko, who watched the whole thing for mission control. You really feel the emotional side, her relief and pride.
That connection back to loved ones must be so important.
Absolutely. And he reflects on the experience, initially thinking, no way I'm doing that again soon, but then realizing, yeah, he'll be ready. That type 2 fun idea.
Fun afterwards, not necessarily during.
Exactly. And that evening, they celebrate with the Russian crew, talk about the day, lessons learned. He makes sure to praise Kayla's work despite the earlier mistake and credits Kimia's support. Real teamwork.
And then finally, sleep.
Much needed sleep. But the story doesn't quite end there on a purely triumphant note.
Oh.
He gets a call from his father with some sad news from Earth. His uncle had passed away unexpectedly.
Oh, wow. Talk about a contrast. Experiencing this peak moment in space and then getting news like that.
It really grounds the experience, doesn't it? Makes him reflect on time, mortality, missed moments, even while orbiting the planet. A very poignant moment.
Definitely puts things in perspective. Does the mood lighten up again?
Yeah, a few days later, there's a bit of lightheartedness. He plays a little prank on Kajal about the roles for the next spacewalk.
What does he do?
He sort of hints that Kajal won't be EV2, the supporting role he just did. Lets him sweat it for a second. Then reveals Kajal will actually be EV1, the lead spacewalker next time.
Ah, so a real show of confidence.
Exactly. A great way to boost Kajal's morale and show trust after the first EVA. Important experience for Kajal's career, too.
Nice touch. Anything else stand out from this period between spacewalks?
Why, he actually votes in a midterm election from space?
You can do that.
Apparently so. He talks about the importance of doing it, regardless of where you are. But then watching the news from Earth...
He gets concerned.
Yeah, he describes seeing the political climate, worrying about an upcoming presidential election, feeling like a storm was gathering back home. It creates this sense of detachment, maybe unease, seeing Earth's problems from orbit while needing to focus on the mission.
A very strange juxtaposition. Being so far away, yet still connected to terrestrial worries.
It really is. So wrapping up this whole experience, it's just an incredible blend, isn't it? Meticulous planning, meeting unexpected chaos.
Absolutely. The physical and mental toughness, the teamwork, the sheer beauty, and always the risk.
And maybe the most striking thing is that contrast we keep mentioning. The super technical, life-on-the-line stuff, right alongside these deeply personal, emotional, even mundane moments.
Like the unexpected bangs or worrying about floating grease.
Or the view of Earth that leaves you speechless. Or that near miss with the water switch. It paints such a human picture of something often seen as purely technical. Shows how unpredictable even the best laid plans can be in such an extreme place.
We really aim to pull out those core elements for you, hopefully giving you those insights and aha moments without getting lost in all the technical details.
Yeah, distilling the essence of what it's truly like. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, you consider the sheer effort, the risk, the resources poured into just one spacewalk like this. What does that say about our drive as humans to just explore, to push boundaries and understand what's out there?
That's a great point. And looking down at Earth like he did.
Seeing that fragile blue marble, it really makes you ponder our responsibility to take care of it, doesn't it?
It really does. This deep dive, as always, just opens the door. There's so much more to learn about space exploration, the ISS, these astronaut stories.
Absolutely. If this sparked your interest, definitely seek out more. The challenges, the triumphs, they really offer profound insights into who we are